Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss a video from Radio 1.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the show. If you're just about locking on, we've had multiple discussions in the past about EVs, about how we can better the batteries, how we can improve the charging infrastructure, how we can improve the range. But for people, say, for example, in the mobility sector, say, well, autos, for example, you can't tell them to wait, overnight while their battery charges. So how do we use that problem to, sorry, how do we solve that problem using technology? Well,
this is hashtag the change. All systems stand by to transmit now. This is Good Morning Bangalore with Kay. 94.3.
all right, welcome to the show. It's Radio 1. My name is Kay. Tech for Change is one of my most favorite segments where we speak to people in the technology space using technology for some form of social good. Now, like I've said in the past, we've discussed this multiple times, the range issue, the charging infrastructure issue, and of course, just the battery issue when it comes to EVs is one of the, just a few of the things that's hindering India from moving towards a complete EV market. But if you look at it, especially in the mobility sector, there are a lot of auto drivers out there, for example, who may have an electric auto, who might want to switch to an electric auto, but they cannot wait that charging time of 5-6 hours or whatever it is, right, to actually get their vehicle up and running. And that's a lot of income loss for them. So how do we solve that issue, especially for that sector of people? I came across a Delhi EV startup that's actually changing the game in that space. What is the future of public mobility when it comes to EVs? We'll discuss that in just a bit with, two people who are going to be joining me all the way from Delhi. I've got, they're already waiting on Zoom, Varun and Akshay, who are the co-founders of a beautiful little startup called Chargeup. We'll come back, chat with them a little bit more. Stay tuned. All right, Varun and Akshay are joining me on Zoom. You can hear them all across the city. Varun, Akshay, hey, good morning, guys. Nice to speak with you. Nice to see you.
Morning. Good morning. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me on the show. So Tech for Change, as I just explained, is a place where I focus on a lot of people and sectors in the technology space. But the public mobility EV space is a very, very tricky space, right? You want your public transport to switch to EVs. There's a lot of issues that come up. For example, I just brought up some time ago the issue of an auto driver who can't waste 5 or 6 hours having his battery being charged while he's losing income over those 5 to 6 hours. And the solution in that is people come, swap out the battery, and then they kind of go about their business. And once that battery is done, they swap it out, and you guys are charging batteries in the background. So where did this idea kind of come from? What has it evolved into for you guys? Let me start with Akshay. Akshay, go ahead.
Okay, so Kay, thank you for having us. It was very interesting. We, the Indian EV story happens to be the fact that 80% of all the EVs running in India are what we call as the e-rickshaws. And they're solving a very important aspect, like you said, of last mile connectivity, especially in all the way from north to eastern India. All right. So we have about 2.5 million of these guys. And when we happened to look at them, we said, they're using what they call as a Paniwala lead acid battery, which takes about 8 to 10 hours to charge, gives them limited range and therefore limited revenue. And we said, how do we solve this issue of range, revenue, and charging infrastructure all in one go? So the idea was to develop this special kind of lithium battery, but offer it as a service on a daily basis through our outlets, which are spread across the city. So now the driver just has to go, swap out these batteries, and within 2 minutes, he's ready to go. He has no capital cost. His revenue has doubled, right? And he's happy and flying all the way, changing these batteries out whenever he needs them.
Varun, also from a perspective of Delhi, for that matter, right? There's a large sector that wants to adopt these, e-vehicles. There's a large sector, like we've been saying in the public mobility space, that want to adopt these electric vehicles as well.
Right.
I think that's going to really be the future of India. It's just a matter of other states catching up to that wave sooner or later, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So from that perspective, what is I mean, how do we faster employ the EV, kind of infrastructure and everything that, the EV has to bring with it in India in general? Is this the only way forward, that we swap out the batteries and just make things easier for everyone?
So, yes and no. Okay. So, if we are talking about the EV story, any part of the world, it's like a chicken and egg story. Which will come first? Is the vehicle or the infrastructure? Okay.
Right.
But interestingly, India with 80% of the EVs are e-rickshaws. So that problem has been solved. There are already, as Akshay said, 2.4 million e-rickshaws on road. So for commercial vehicles, so when we started Akshay and me with this whole idea, so the first thing we said, buy only the vehicle, not the fuel for 2 to 3 years. Okay, pay as you go. And if you see any industry to grow, firstly, any technology is expensive. So the right financial structuring and offering it as a service is what propels the growth of that industry.
Right.
So for commercial application in EV, swapping is the solution. Not only it solves the problem of the capital investment, because 50% of vehicle cost is battery. It also helps in improving the life of the batteries, with the swapping infrastructure. It's maintaining a controlled environment.
Right.
So, but when I talk about, probably electric 4-wheelers or 2-wheelers which are being used for a personal use, then definitely, it's like a charging thing at their residence. They're doing it because their kilometers daily requirement is very less.
Yeah, and it's also fixed in a lot of ways, right? I mean, it's variable here and there a little bit, but you know how much you're going to travel to office and back. You know how much you're going to go to the store and come back. So it's kind of, it's almost set in a lot of ways. So, I mean, maybe it takes a little bit of extra planning. You can't just pick up the car and go whenever you want, which is a fair trade-off for what you're giving back to the environment, I feel. I'll tell you what, let's
and in fact, Kay, if you don't mind, I'll just add on to what Varun was trying to say. In the commercial space, you can imagine that, when the guy used to travel maybe 60, 70 kilometers after 10 hours of charging, and month on month it would reduce. So, the next month he may get 60, then 50, then 45, and then 40. Then he has to spend again. He has to spend again on the batteries. Right. And most importantly, because of, his charging time is limited, but his demand is there.
Correct.
So he was unable to service the demand.
Correct.
Right. But with the swapping solution, the rickshaw driver can actually service all the demand without having to worry about, I only have a limited number of kilometers.
Fair enough.
And that range anxiety is what we are solving through this battery swapping venture for the e-rickshaws.
Awesome.
And it's amazing to hear the stories of impact.
Oh, I want to get to that. I want to get to that. I want to get to that in just a bit. I'm sure a lot of people want to hear those stories. So I want to get to that in a bit. Varun and Akshay join me from let's just say the world of EVs. You can check out their startup. It's called Chargeup. You can look it up online. In the meanwhile, we're going to slip into a small break, come back in just a bit. More conversation with them. Stand by. Welcome back. Two co-founders of a lovely little startup called Chargeup are with me, and we're addressing the public mobility EV space here in India. So always you have the issue of range being a problem. You have an issue of, say, for example, charging infrastructure. That's a problem in a lot of ways. But when you try to fix that issue, you're losing out revenue that, say, for example, a typical auto rickshaw wala might miss out on, right? And that's where these guys are kind of aimed to fill that gap. Basically, let's say you go to a charging infrastructure station, swap out your battery for a brand new one that's fully charged, continue your business, thereby there's no loss in revenue. That's what Varun and Akshay have been trying to do with Chargeup. Guys, so let me hear your stories. Like, how did you guys kind of partner up and like decide that, hey, okay, this is what we want to do? What is your individual stories? When did that happen? Anyone want to take this? Akshay, or if
I think Varun has a more romantic story. Varun has a more
Sure.
romantic story to that.
Sure.
I'll let Varun answer that.
Fair enough. Varun, go for it.
So basically, Akshay and me, we both come from a clean tech space. I have been working in solar space, solving the problem of energy through solar energy, where I learned about distributed network and renewable energy, and that's what the whole. And Akshay has been working with his family business into clean mobility space,
Okay.
where he designed and developed a battery technology.
Right.
So we both met through a common friend where, actually the real courtship started for us. We kind of connected on the same vision and idea for this
You make it
huge
sound-
growing community.
You make it sound like you guys met on Tinder or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
That's
why
why I
Akshay
said Varun has the romantic part because he calls it the courtship period. Yeah.
Sorry, Varun, go on. Yes, you were saying. Yeah.
Any partnership, be it marriage or partnership, there's a courtship period.
Right.
So to test each other how the synergy is. So almost for a year, we were like, serving the market and doing the research and testing the technology before entering into this space.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then
The
it
whole
just,
idea was establishing and understanding that the need is bigger. So, Varun, the part he misses out is that when this idea came, he was very excited about it, but he said, you know what, Akshay, I'm actually going to test it out. So he actually rode with 500 e-rickshaw drivers in different parts
right.
to understand their problem. All right. And when he said, it's a common problem, he said, actually, let's go out, but we need to find the right business model to reach out to the maximum number. And that's where that year was. And he wanted to make sure that the battery tech that was developed is what it does. It says what it does,
Fair enough.
Because that's the heart of the problem. If the battery doesn't last, the e-rickshaw driver is not going to be happy and all that.
Yeah.
So
And then they'll feel almost like they don't want to kind of adopt the technology at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why Varun and I spent about a year solving all these chinks in the armor. We didn't want to be like a typical startup, just go out there and just keep learning. We wanted to learn from the mistakes, do it in stealth mode, and then scale up.
Fair enough.
Right. And interestingly, we both had a very different skill sets and experience. Like, I am more an execution guy. Akshay is more a product and strategy. So
it's the perfect
mixture.
Tinder marriage.
Absolutely. So basically, I can say that
I didn't know Tinder was for marriage. I thought
You'd be surprised. I've heard so many friends who have gotten married because of Tinder. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
I'll tell you what, guys, when we come back on the other side, we'll talk about what Akshay had referred to a little while ago, which is the numerous success stories and the impact stories that have happened because of Chargeup. So we'll come back with Varun and Akshay, two co-founders at Chargeup. More in just a bit. Stand by. Hey, this morning on the show, we're addressing public EV mobility and the future of it on one of my most favorite segments. And joining me on that little segment is Akshay and Varun. They're the co-founders of Chargeup. The idea to, if for example, you've got auto rickshaw drivers, how they can drive around, get their revenue through the day, but say charge is dead, they head on over to a stop, swap out their batteries, thereby you don't have to wait around for the kind of auto to kind of charge up, and then they continue about their business. Everybody's happy. So I'm sure in this tenure of setting up Chargeup, there's been a lot of heartwarming stories that have come your way. Akshay, Varun, I'd love to hear at least one that would make everybody feel, let's just say, that there's a lot of hope in this sector and we can really, really help out a lot of people in this sector.
Varun, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Go for it.
Basically, when we doing our survey search and we met these drivers, like Akshay, our favorite drivers, the Pancham, who was like struggling with limited revenue. He was not able to pay his EMI, defaulting on it because of the battery issue. After starting Chargeup, what we interestingly saw that the drivers who were limited to a 10-kilometer radius of doing short trips, because of Chargeup, they are now able to do, they have increased their radius up to 40 kilometers. So they are doing longer trips.
Okay.
So they're still working for 12 hours a day, But instead of 850 rupees a day, now they're earning 1800 to 2000 rupees a day. So interesting stories like, there's a driver who is, physically challenged. He does 200 kilometers per day and he's earning 2500 rupees per day. He shifted his family from Bihar to Delhi, and that impacted his life. And
Varun, sorry, you're going in and out. I'm losing you a little bit. Akshay, are you losing him too?
Yeah, I'm losing him too. Sorry, guys, bandwidth issue, I guess.
1 second, I'll just wait for Varun to come back.
Yeah. Anyway, just to continue on that, Kay,
to support their family. Is it audible now? Is it audible now?
Yeah, much better.
You're audible.
I heard you from. He shifted his family from Bihar to Delhi. So yeah, that's where you dropped off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've lost Varun here.
Yeah. Sorry, you want to take it from there, Akshay? Feel free. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you have a lot of story of these migrant people who are coming here just to earn, but then they leave their family behind because, they're not sure of their earning or what kind of life they can provide. Now, here's one gentleman who was physically handicapped and was doing this, a hardworking fellow, and but his family was in Bihar. And now, because he's got this secured income, right? He actually moved his family to Delhi, and you should have seen his face when he was profusely thanking us, Kay, for Chargeup. I mean, to me, it's not only the impact on the environment, but the impact that we've had in these people's lives. I think what Varun did mention was Pancham was actually a student, and now what he was paying off his education loans by driving an e-rickshaw.
Right.
And he's actually been able to pay that off in a year, which he might not have paid off in 3 years.
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Right?
I think
and that's really.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I mean, we hope to create
many more such Pancham stories. Many more.
Right.
Yeah. You know what? I think this is an ultra cool little thing, and the idea of Chargeup is so simple. But I think the impact can be felt so much for, like you said, years to come. I want to kind of, maybe before I let you both go, I'm going to ask you both individually. I'll start with Varun, and maybe your little message to people out there. How can they be more supportive? How can we adopt this space faster, easier? What would generally be your message to everybody listening in? I'll start with Varun. Varun, go ahead.
Okay, when you're saying the message, it's like for the regular people, electric vehicles.
To all the people who may adopt EVs as technology or maybe as public modes of transport, right?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So so the message is very clear that the more people actually step forward to adopt EV for their personal use and public transport, consciously they adopt it. It will help in increasing the foothold in the industry, and once there is more consumption, the cost will come down. And this is one of the major concerns on the environmental front, because the carbon footprints from vehicle emissions, IC engines, are substantially high, and EV is the only answer to that.
Right.
So that's our message to people, that support more, and till you cannot afford an EV, to support more on e-rickshaws and take more rides for your last mile connectivity.
Super. Well said. Akshay, anything you'd like to add?
Well, I would say the same thing. I think we should, I'll just add that, we should publicly petition the governments to ensure that clean mobility becomes an integral part of all public transport, for sure. And you can see the central government, and the government has that, because under the FAME scheme, that's what they have given maximum outlays towards buses, two-wheelers, and rickshaws, right? So they are pretty much, And that's a statistic I want to bring up. 72% of the Indian motoring is on two-wheelers.
Right.
So they
right,
contribute a significant amount to emissions. So, I just think that please use EVs. They are fantastic to ride. Once you ride one, you will never go back to an IC engine. This I can ensure. If you drive one, and if not, till then, please take public transport, which is green, contribute to the environment, every day. It's a small contribution. You need it anyways. Just taking an EV will, help the
Super.
environment and the person riding it.
Right. Guys, I want to wish you both all the very best. Akshay and Varun, I think, this is such a lovely start that you guys have made, but I'm not going to say there's not work pending. There's a lot of work pending,
No.
be it from the infrastructure part, be it from a policy level, be it from a consumer level, be it from, say, for example, the people who drive the auto rickshaws. There are multiple levels at which you guys have a long way to go. So I wish you both all the very best. And here's hoping that, at least for our next generation, our kids, we kind of hope that they see a cleaner, greener India.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks
a lot,
so
Kay.
much, Kay. Thanks for taking up this very important issue and creating awareness about it. We're really excited about this
Awesome.
venture. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right.
guys.